Let's do it, y'all. Let's do it. Let's do it. We talking week 11 in the NFL. Biggest takeaways. Ty Butler in the building, streaming live on X and on YouTube. You can see where to follow me at Ty D Butler. Snapchat as well. We getting it popping over on Snapchat. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and on X, Instagram, Ty D Butler. And I want to give people a chance to hop in here, hop in the stream. Hit us up in the comments. I want to hear from y'all, man. Let's make it a two-way conversation. I want to just be talking to myself. I want to talk to the people. Listen, it's not too often that you get hype lived up to, because all throughout last week, everyone on television, on whatever media platform they had, was telling you about how loaded this weekend was going to be. Because just in theory, it was measuring up to be the best regular season NFL weekend of the year, Jets Patriots notwithstanding, because there was just a lot at stake. And you get to this part of the season and you still don't want to overreact too much. But when you're in week 11, you don't want to underreact. So a lot of games on the slate, playoff implications, tiebreakers, MVP conversations. So the awards, the accolades, trying to determine who the best team is. I was in a gym with my mans this morning. Shout out my boy Max. And he said to me, he's like, yo, I don't know who the favorite in the NFL is. And I'm like, listen, they keep telling us they're the favorite. We just don't want to believe them until they're in the Super Bowl again. And that's the Philadelphia Eagles. So I know it's not always pretty because it's ugly wins. AJ Brown complaining, Jalen Hurts. Yo, I spent all summer caping for this dude, going at my man Bart Scott's head top all summer long. Like, he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, and he hasn't made me look good so far. I still trust him in big spots, but let's talk about week 11, because as far as I'm concerned, the biggest winner, gotta say, the Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos. What they did at home against the Chiefs yesterday. We'll get more into that. They won the weekend. Or maybe it was Kevin Durant and Şengün. I know it's football season. Rockets are pretty good, man. Pretty good. Should have won opening night against Oklahoma City. But KD last night, what did he go for? 35, 5 and 6 in an overtime win against Orlando, another pretty good team. Him and Şengün, they look incredible. Just imagine if the Rockets are able to pull off the Kyrie Irving trade. We'll see. But as I said, the Eagles, they're the best team. The Chargers had the worst weekend. And I try not to be that person who frames a lot of my arguments around like the gambling part of it, because there is a toxicity part of the culture that is. I saw Jimmy Butler getting hassled about someone losing their parlay because of what he was not able to do, and like, we have fun with it in the media, but it's a real thing what these players and athletes got to go through. With that said, the Chargers, bunch of my parlays just obliterated because of them. Every time you are ready to put all of your faith in the Chargers, you are reminded they're still the Chargers. And I understand it is difficult for any team to withstand losing both their tackles and Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. But my man, to get trounced like that by the Jags, who just last week blew a 20-point lead to Davis Mills and the Texans. Davis Mills, give him credit. He's 2-0 as a starter. But that Jags team that has inspired no type of confidence from anyone, including Jags fans, you lose to them. You get, not just lose, but you get annihilated by them. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. So Justin Herbert and the Chargers, by far the worst weekend. How about this? Ravens and Chiefs. knotted up at 5-5. Now, Kansas City technically is ahead of them because they played them. What was that, back in week 4, and beat them pretty decisively. But no one could have imagined that when the Chiefs were starting to, get that mojo back, and the Ravens had lost Lamar Jackson for a month and had fallen to 1-5. No one could have imagined we'd be sitting here week 11, both of those teams at 5-5. But Baltimore has won 4 straight. The Chiefs, yet another loss to a good team. And if you dig a little deeper into Kansas City's season, you're even at 5-5. I'll say this because I have two conflicting thoughts. Even at 5-5, I'm not quitting them. Their defense is still outstanding. They still have a tremendous head coach, which, by the way, Andy Reid coming off of a bye, that team looking as undisciplined as it did yesterday, it's not a great look as far as the coaching part of it, because every time we are analyzing a game, we are looking at rest advantage. And a team with a Hall of Fame coach coming off of a bye, you expect them to be sharp. A team with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, who is in an unprecedented, uncharted territory, fighting for its life in the AFC, you expect them to be buttoned up. Now, Patrick Mahomes, while it wasn't great yesterday, I thought he came with the right, I don't want to say mentality because that's like a cliche, but Romo hit on this in the broadcast. Like, there was something about how he was carrying himself, knew it was a big game, and you trust that dude always. I mean, he's came out guns blazing, taking shots down the field. So when he comes ready for war, he's like, it's almost like LeBron in big games. Well, LeBron's like, all right, I know I am known to be a passer, get my teammates involved, but I'm going to start this game out taking 5 of the first 7 shots. And Mahomes, like, there's obviously no comp to that basketball and football because he has the ball in his hands every play. But Mahomes came out with that look in his eyes and just the body language, the aura, the attitude of someone who knew it's a big game. Statement time in Denver against a really good defense, tremendous defense. It's time to make a statement. And they were this close to doing that. When Kelsey has that breakaway for a touchdown, or I forget who it was who missed the tackle, you're thinking, all right, I've seen this movie before. Chiefs take the lead, about to go up 4. Butler misses the extra point. It gets blocked. But then after Denver ties it, Patrick and the Chiefs, with a chance to have us rewatch a movie we've seen far too often. And that is 4:10 left, tie game. They're going to run the clock out. They're going to march down the field, run the clock out, except incompletion, sack. And that was the last time Kansas City would possess the football. So after they scored that touchdown, Denver punt. So Chiefs up 3, chance to ice the game. They punt, 3 and out. Chiefs then punt again. So they had 6 plays on 2 possessions, up 3 and in a tie game, chance to either put it away or go win the game, and they failed to do that. And I thought it was going to be perfect because Sean Payton, I mean, I guess you give him credit in the aftermath now that you've seen it play out. But Sean Payton has been running his mouth. And he was talking ish during the game where he said that, and I had to double check to see if I had heard him correctly, where he said, Kansas City, we know they're a first half team. Because I just could not have ever imagined a Hall of Fame head coach who understands the gravity of his commentary against that team, that quarterback, that head coach, that personnel, with your second-year quarterback who hasn't been impressive and who, yes, has been, ice water in his veins late in games, but can sometimes look like, yo, is he the worst quarterback in football? Deer in the headlights. I was shocked. So when it was later confirmed in the broadcast, it was like, yo, did Sean Payton really say that? Yeah, he did say that. And Kansas City Chiefs are a first half team. So I said, you know what? I already know what's going to happen. Kansas City is going to march down the field on that dominant defense, win the game. And my man Nick Wright on his show, First Things First, is going to play that audio clip before he drops a banner. Except that banner won't be coming today. And that audio clip from Sean Payton won't be used as like an old takes exposed, because credit to him and his team, they were able to get it done in a spot where not many of us expected, because we have seen far too often the Chiefs in a big spot, they come through. They come through, especially against inferior team, inferior quarterback. And that's with all due respect to Denver. I'm not dismissing what they've done. But when we see how they operate quarters 1 through 3 and they have these miraculous comebacks, we are conditioned to believe teams like that, similar to Chicago, it's a little bit of flukiness. There's a little fraudulence to you. So when it's time to be exposed by Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, that is going to happen. Kevin Zwicker says, we all know how good a Coach Payton is, but I don't think we give him enough credit for how good Denver has been with Nick's quarterback. Oh, that credit's going to be coming today. That credit is going to be coming, because what we can't do is say, you know what, Bo Nix ain't that special, but also look at them at 9-2, fresh off of beating the Chiefs en route to winning this division, which is going to happen, and then not give Sean Payton the credit. I don't love what he did to Nate Hackett when he first got the job. I don't love the shots he's taken at Russell Wilson. What he did yesterday during the game, I won't say I didn't love it, but I surely thought it was going to come back to haunt him. And it didn't. Sean Payton right now is in the running for Coach of the Year. But with all that said, to go back to Kansas City, while there's a lot to be concerned about, because you look at the resume and it's like, all right, here are their wins. The Giants with Russell Wilson. Baltimore, that's a great win. But remember, the Ravens were in a free fall. Lamar Jackson ends up getting hurt in the game. And when he got hurt, Kansas City was in control. Kansas City was not going to lose that game. But all right, let's give them an impressive check mark for beating the Ravens. They beat the Lions, but you see the Lions last night scored 6 points. They beat the Raiders and the Commanders. So of the 5 wins, the 2 that you can say are quote-unquote impressive are Baltimore and Detroit, both at home. But then you look at the rest of the resume. They lost to the Chargers. They lost a home game to the Eagles. They lost in Jacksonville. They lost in Buffalo and in Denver. So they're an awful road team. Their lone road win this year has come in New York against the Russell Wilson-led Giants, who just got stripped of his backup title. He's now the third-string quarterback. So they'll play a big game next week against Indianapolis. And once again, it's like, all right, I expect the Chiefs to win this. They're at home against Daniel Jones. If you don't beat the Colts, and I get the Colts have been really good, but we're starting to see some slippage with Daniel Jones. If you fall to 5-6, how much rope do we have left as far as like affording you the benefit of the doubt? I'm still not going to quit them, because it's a tremendous defense with a great head coach, who didn't look really good yesterday, and the best quarterback in football. But at some point, like, what we're watching has to matter. It has to matter. We can't just dismiss the games. That game yesterday is one that the Chiefs of old win 10 times out of 10. struggle early. They find a way to take the lead, and then their defense pins its ears back, forces a turnover, gets a stop. That play to Franklin, Bo Nix, great throw, just never happens against the Chiefs. And it was fitting that Will Lutz, who had his field goal blocked last season, ends up getting the game winner. So Kansas City, they're going to be the biggest story today because we have to now assess how much trouble they're in. And I saw Damian Woody say this on Get Up this morning. Teams aren't scared of the Chiefs anymore. And I'll give Chris Broussard credit for pointing this out after the Super Bowl. That aura, the mystique is gone. What the Philadelphia Eagles did to Kansas City in the Super Bowl last year, where they publicly undressed them in the biggest game of the year, that put a stain on them. Not just, oh, what's Mahomes' record in Super Bowls, like we, do the LeBron Jordan thing. But the stain is you don't fear them as much as you did before. They're not viewed upon as this invincible juggernaut that is going to find ways time and time again to beat you. They are looked upon as a team with some warts. So could Denver at home, while 3.5-point underdogs, beat them? Yes, they showed yesterday they could. Could Buffalo at home beat them? Yes, they showed they could 2 weeks ago. Could Indianapolis beat them? Maybe they will, even with Daniel Jones starting to show that, there's some slippage in his productivity. The Chiefs could very well miss the playoffs. They could very well miss the playoffs. And it is crazy to think that just 5 minutes ago we were asking, is this the greatest team ever? To now, could they not even be one of the 7 best in the AFC, where they're on the outside looking in this come January? It is amazing that this is where we are now. So that's the Kansas City side of it. On the flip side, man, Denver, Bo Nix all week long had to hear about how terrible of a quarterback he is. Can't get it done, has the clutch gene, but really, how good is he? Being carried by his defense, miraculous wins, and he went out there yesterday and, dare I say, outplayed Patrick Mahomes. Outplayed him. Now, he didn't throw for any touchdowns, but the running ability, the extending plays, his decision-making, not turning the ball over, that won them the football game yesterday. Then he made the throw of the game. The throw of the game did Bo Nix have. In a spot where you're like, I don't think this is going to work out. A spot at multiple spots where he's converting 3rd and 15 for a 20-yard gain from the Denver 41. Think about if he doesn't complete that pass, Kansas City's going to have 3 timeouts and the 2-minute warning. And as good as Denver's defense is, at some point, the dam is going to break. So the big play to Sutton on 3rd and 15, just shy of the 2-minute warning. He has the 3rd and 5 play to Sutton again. And then the big bomb to Troy Franklin that iced the game. And Denver comes out of there as a winner. Bo Nix, nothing but love for him today. And the fascinating part about what we saw yesterday, Denver reminds me of the Rex Ryan Jets. Yeah, you have a quarterback who we know to some degree is limited, but we want to put him in a spot where we're trying to do 2 things that's hard. We want him to be aggressive because he does have a big arm. He can throw the ball down the field. He struggles with his accuracy. We want him to be aggressive because that is how our offense can be effective. But we can't have this dude turning the ball over because our defense is so good that even if the offense isn't excellent, we can still win these types of games. But we cannot have you put us at a disadvantage. We'll get the stop, but do not put us in precarious situations where we're having to bail you out on a short field position because of these turnovers. And Bo Nix made some plays. And the most fascinating thing going forward is the Denver Broncos can very well win the Super Bowl this year. They can. They have a tremendous head coach. They have a dominant defense. And they do have some weapons on offense. The J.K. Dobbins injury is huge. It's huge. He's lost for the season. Like, that's a huge injury. But their kid, their rookie Harvey, comes in yesterday and he performs well. The question is going to be Bo Nix, who, by the way, started his playoff career last year with a bomb for a touchdown against the Bills. Now, I think that was the last of them score. If I remember correctly, they lost 35-7. But the question is going to be, can Bo Nix do just enough in that offense to win them some football games? Now, he's shown in fourth quarters, the answer to that question is yes, he can. But we can't have you just be a dud from quarters 1 to 3. And yesterday he wasn't. He outplayed Patrick Mahomes. The Broncos right now, and this is not me overreacting, if I had to pick a team just based on what we've seen so far, we're through 11 weeks, and there are teams that are going to get the benefit of the doubt. Lamar, Josh, and even Patrick, because of the quarterbacks. But right now, and the Patriots have been awesome, but right now, and this is subject to change upon new information being inserted into the equation. The Broncos are the best team in the AFC. They're the best team in the AFC. The question becomes, the Bo Nix we saw yesterday, massive pressure, y'all. This is for the division. They are going to get crushed today, called frauds, and a lot of revisionist history. If they don't win that game yesterday, and Bo Nix struggles against that great Chiefs defense, there's going to be a lot of skepticism, not just about them contending, but about them winning this division. So that's a huge spot. Prime time window, everyone's watching, and Bo Nix against that vaunted championship caliber Chiefs defense in that environment was able to drive them down the field for a game-winning score, out-dueling Patrick Mahomes. That matters. So right now, the Broncos are the best team in the AFC. Now, we'll see what it means going forward, because I think Denver, and it's a perfect time, right? I think they go into their bye. Yep. So they're on a bye this coming week. Before, is that Sunday? Yeah, so they're on a bye this week. Tremendous time for a bye. Well, they've won 9 straight games. And after the bye, they play Washington. It's a big spot because a well-coached team does not get high off of beating the Chiefs. A well-coached team comes off of an extra week of preparation, and you take care of business against Washington. Look at their schedule. It's Washington, it's Vegas, and then Green Bay, Jacksonville, Kansas City again, and the Chargers. These next 2 weeks, you got to clean up. You have to be 11-2 going into that home game against Green Bay. Now we're talking about the 1 seed in the AFC. Now we're talking about you having home field throughout, you needing just one win to get to host the AFC Championship game. That's the type of territory you're in. If you clean up, take care of business against Washington and against Vegas, you've got Green Bay, Jacksonville, Kansas City, the Chargers. Those are 4 tough games, but you're in a spot where all you're thinking about is we go week to week, but even a split of those 4 games gets us the 1 seed. The Denver Broncos right now, ladies and gentlemen, that's the best team in the AFC. That is the best team in the AFC. Hell of a performance yesterday. Tremendous. Stock up for Bo Nix. Stock up for the Denver Broncos. Stock down for the Kansas City Chiefs. Because you get to a point where it's like, all right, man, your resume is what it is. Your resume is what it is. Baltimore gets a win, so they've now won 4 straight games. It wasn't pretty, but if you're the Ravens, there are some hurdles you have to overcome. Now, Derrick Henry did his thing yesterday. I didn't think Lamar played well at all. Ends up with 2 interceptions, balls bouncing off of guys' hands. One of them gets returned for a pick 6. On the side of Baltimore, Mark Andrews, I mean, what a play, right? The fake tush push. And that's going to be one of the unintended consequences, because I do think the tush push will get banned this offseason. But what we're seeing is some creativity. The Eagles did it earlier this year, where teams are so dialed in to try to stop what is almost an unstoppable play. The team doing the tush push now is like, all right, we'll do a little trickery. And that's fun. So Mark Andrews, he scores a touchdown. The Ravens take the lead, and they're able to get to 5-5. At this point for Baltimore, it's less about the wins looking pretty and more about you just stockpiling those W's and see where the chips fall. Pittsburgh, you're right on their tails. You play them twice. I think the Ravens are better than the Steelers. And it sounds like Rodgers, who fractured his hand yesterday, is like lobbying to play in this Bears game. We'll see what happens. He wants to return to Soldier Field. Like, this could be the last. This is likely the last time Aaron's in Chicago. So you know he desperately wants to play this game. And these games are important. But the Ravens, just worry about, like, the goal was, all right, we got to find a way to get to 500. Now it's, all right, how do we get to 10 wins? Which means you got to go 5-1 the rest of the way. Now, the Ravens play my New York Jets this Sunday. That's a win. They then play the Bengals. Should be a win. Steelers, Bengals. So next 4 games, you got to go 3-1. Tough when you get to the last 3: Patriots, Packers, and Steelers. But the Baltimore 10-6 or 10-7, I should say, should be the worst case scenario for you. You're 5-5. So you got to find a way to go 5-2 the rest of the way. I think you got to sweep the Bengals, split with Pittsburgh. That's a loss there, and then you can only manage 1 loss, and that's either the Patriots or the Packers. 10-7, I think you'll be fine. Tyrod, I think he's going to get the start on Sunday against Baltimore. But what I find so interesting with the Jet fans, and we'll get back to Baltimore in a moment, is we can clamor for Tyrod Taylor all we want, guys, and the logic is fine. Because I see people saying, like, you can't fully evaluate what you have on this roster with Justin Fields at the quarterback position because he's just holding you back, which I understand. The problem with that is, how long are you getting Tyrod for? The dude is always hurt. He's been nursing a knee injury the entirety of the season. You can't expect him to finish the year out. So insert him. Cool. We're going to end up right back with Justin Fields, a quarterback anyway. So buckle up for that. As far as the Ravens, again, do they look like a team that right now could win the Super Bowl? No. Because I still think Lamar looks skimpy, looks hesitant. He doesn't have that explosiveness. He dealt with a hamstring injury that knocked him out a month. Last week, he showed up on the injury report with knee soreness. So his lower extremities looks like they're hampering him. And if he's not a dual threat, like the Ravens offense is going to be pedestrian like it was yesterday. But Derrick Henry, I thought was awesome. And they found a way to win that game, a game they desperately needed to win, man. If you're losing to Cleveland, this season is shot. The season is shot. All right, let's go to the Browns for a moment. It was so not even mind-boggling, not even eye-opening because I expected it, but so off-putting, so disgraceful. Just, man, distasteful. I'm in the YouTube chat yesterday, and you could say this is a bad job by me, but got the NFL package. I'm watching all the games, and the chat was open for some of the games I was watching. Shador Sanders comes in. The amount of vitriol aimed in his direction, the amount of people showing enthusiasm every time he had an incompletion, the pick six, anytime there was a bad Shador Sanders play, there was such a passionate celebration in this NFL YouTube chat to the point where I'm thinking, is that deep? It's that deep. We're talking about, because here's what I don't understand. The people who say that we talk too much about Shador Sanders, he's a fifth round pick, who cares? Those same people are the ones that are just pumping their chest out when that same fifth round pick, who they don't deem worth talking about, struggles, and they're celebrating it, throwing a parade. It's like, yes, we've won. To the point where, yo, we even had somebody in the chat, and I'm like, did I read this correctly? Somebody in the chat was like, yo, where the black people at? Almost like, it was almost as if he was tormenting. It was like torment. Where the black people at? Where y'all at? Like the what about Chicago people? Like it's that serious, which tells me this is bigger than Dion, man. This is bigger than Dion. Like he was getting flamed. And I'm just trying to remember, how did Shador Sanders become so unlikable? What did he do that made him so unlikable to the point where you have to, with such passion, root against this kid upon his first entry into an NFL game? Yo, y'all should have saw the comments. And I know living in comments on social media, that is not what you want to do. But it was wild, yo. It was wild, the amount of vitriol this kid was receiving. What's motivating that? You're a fan. You could root for whoever you want to root for, root against whoever you want to root against. But the fact that people were out in droves, excited about this kid's failures in his first NFL game, where he hadn't taken any first team reps, he's just coming in raw dogging it. And y'all are just hyped. Y'all are excited. That was crazy to me. Witnessing that, I had to close the chat because it was so sad, man. As an African American myself, it's just like, yo, why do you guys live with so much hatred? What's that about? It was never, and it should never be that serious. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. But I'm sure people are going to be very responsible in their assessment of Shador Sanders arriving at conclusions as he goes 4 of 16 for 47 yards. Had a passer rating of 13 and a half. Took 2 sacks, 1 interception. It was a pick six that, you know, it either ended up tying the game for the Ravens or let me actually I could actually check it. I have the play-by-play here. The interception that he throws in the 3rd quarter. Actually, no, and it wasn't a pick six because right after that, the Lamar throws in an interception. So they were still in the game, still had a chance to win it, but I just thought it was just, crazy, man. Some people really like seeing a confident black man succeed. Hope he balls out. That is right on the money. To operate with such disdain is repulsive. A successful black quarterback with confidence. Now you can be turned off by the draft process. I understand that if that's the route you want to go. But for that to arm you with the amount of hatred, the amount of fervor to which I saw this kid being attacked yesterday in that chat on YouTube, it's so shameful, man. It is absolutely shameful. Um, Moving on, we go to the rest of the NFL slate, and as I keep saying, man, it lived up to the hype. The morning game, Dolphins Commanders, wasn't great, but the Dolphins found a way to get a victory. All of a sudden, they're four. How about Miami? They're 4-7 after back-to-back wins. They throttled the Bills. They beat the Commanders on the last second drive, and now they've got the Saints and the Jets coming up. So they could be 6-7 in a matter of weeks here. They got the bye coming up, then 2 straight games at home against the Saints, and then on the road against the Jets. They should be 6-7 in the next 3 weeks. You get the Panthers winning on a walk-off field goal. Michael Penix Jr. exits this game with an injury. Kirk Cousins comes in, and he was a disaster. Bryce Young, man, 31 of 45, 448 yards, 3 touchdowns. And there was some thought coming off of how he ended last season. Did we find something with our quarterback? Now, he hasn't been great this year, had some moments, but Bryce Young has it in him to, have a couple games like that. And this perfectly leads into our next game. It's on the table. It's on the table. The Panthers, dare I say, the Carolina Panthers can win the NFC South. The Carolina Panthers, with that win yesterday, improved to 6-5. Meanwhile, the Buccaneers, yet another loss. They go from 5-1 to 6-4 following their loss to the Bills. This was a great game. The final score not indicative of how contested this game was. Back and forth, high scoring, Baker Mayfield doing his thing. But Josh Allen had a superhuman performance. 3 touchdowns, passing, 3 rushing touchdowns. He was incredible. 6 total TDs in this game, and a much needed win for Buffalo. Because if they lose this and they fall to, what would it have been, 6-4, with the Patriots playing as well as they are, Buffalo in a bit of a tailspin. And then short week against the Texans, you can start to look at this thing and say, gee, I don't know. Still got games left against the Patriots and the Eagles. And the Patriots game will be in Foxborough. So that's a massive win for Buffalo. Incredible game for Josh Allen. Did have a couple turnovers early, but he was able to rebound, put the team on his back. I give him credit. See, I'm fair. People call me a Josh Allen hater. No, I'm fair. Because y'all like to pretend that I've never seen someone play the quarterback position as great as him. Cut it out. He's a fantastic quarterback. You can make the case he has to do more on his team than any other player in the league. But sometimes we go just a little bit too far, and like the young kids say, the glazing. But big win for Buffalo yesterday. Massive, massive win. They improved to 7-3. Short week coming up against the Texans, who have climbed back into the AFC playoff picture. How about the Texans? 5-5. Davis Mills holding it down. Led a 20-point comeback last week against the Jags. He now leads a game-winning drive against the Titans. The Titans, who are 1-9, awful season. Cam Ward just had a bright moment in that game, game-tying touchdown. But it was the Texans who emerged victorious. And look, the Texans are not going to win that division. But take a look at the AFC playoff picture. Boy, is it fun. So you got the Colts at 8-2. Texans are out of their division, so they're going to have to get in as a wild card team. But in the 7th spot, the Jacksonville Jaguars at 6-4. 8, 9, and 10 are all 5-5. Texans, Chiefs, and Ravens. So Baltimore better keep winning. Kansas City better start winning. Houston better keep winning. Now, I don't trust the Jags, but that's still, if you don't believe the Chargers are going to experience some just woeful collapse, that's still 4 teams for 1 spot. Baltimore, Kansas City, Houston, and Jacksonville all battling for that 7th spot. Now, maybe the Chargers do charger and bottom out because they had a pathetic loss yesterday against Jacksonville. But, they got the bye week coming up. Then coming out of the bye week, they'll play the Raiders. They have to win that game. You come off a bye and lose to the Raiders, then you might as well pack them up. But for the Chargers, man, it's going to get tough. After the Raiders game, Monday night against Philly, then you're on the road in Kansas City, on the road in Dallas, home for Houston, on the road in Denver. Playoff implications all over the place. They're battling Kansas City for the wild card, battling Houston for the wild card. So those are going to be part of the final 2 of the final 4 games they play this season, and doing so without their 2 tackles. So good luck to the Chargers. But with that said, they're still the 6th seed at 7-4 and chance to get into the playoffs. To me, it'll be as a wild card. But that AFC, bottom of the AFC, man. Whoa. This is why it was a big win for the Bills. If the Bills are at 6-4, they're right there, battling for a playoff spot. So it's going to come down to the wire. It's going to come down to the wire. All right. Bears Vikings. I don't want to sound like a hater. I understand the Bears are 7-3. I give more credit to them being 7-3 to Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson having these boys at 7-3, tremendous. Another guy you can say is in the Coach of the Year conversation. Caleb Williams, again, 16 of 32, $193. And I know the Vikings have a good defense, but they had a chance to lose that game. They had a passer rating of 68.9 yesterday. And if not for J.J. McCarthy being probably the worst quarterback in the NFL, him or Justin Fields, the Bears lose that game. They were down. It's amazing. They were down 16-3 in the 4th quarter. 16-3. Bears punt. Special teams leads to a touchdown for Minnesota. Missed field goal by the Bears. Punt by Minnesota, punt by Chicago. Minnesota scores a touchdown. Problem is they scored it too early and their special teams screwed things up. So you allowed Chicago to run it down and be in field goal position almost immediately. But how many times are we going to come away from Chicago saying, oh, probably could have lost that game. Should have lost the Giants game. Should have lost yesterday to Minnesota. Should have lost the Bengals game. Did lose to a backup quarterback in Baltimore. So they're hanging on, and I give them credit for the close wins. But let's not act like there's some juggernaut. Now, coming up, they got Pittsburgh. We'll see if it's Aaron Rodgers or Mason Rudolph. Chicago's probably going to get into the playoffs, but they're no threat. And their quarterback is not the generational talent that anybody expected them to be. He's not even close to that. He's not even close to that. But Chicago's 7-3. So so congrats to them. NJ Lawrence says Denver has a lights out defense, so there are parallels. Nix isn't an elite quarterback, but he's good enough with a great coach. Yeah, Bo Nix, by no stretch of the imagination, is an elite quarterback. Defense is so good, he might not need to be an elite quarterback. And I understand the NFL has changed. You look at the quarterbacks who are winning Super Bowls, and it's like, oh, it's Mahomes and it's Stafford and it's Hurts. But that defense being so tremendous and Bo Nix having the ability to have a game like he did yesterday, turnover free, make big plays. And if they got nothing from their running game yesterday with J.K. Dobbins now out for the season, if he plays the way that he did yesterday, give them a shot, man. Give them a shot. And they had some plays in the red zone that they would like to have back. And some of it is a testament to Kansas City's defense. But Bo Nix, I thought, given the circumstances, the pressure, the opponents, what was at stake with the division, 425 CBS going up against Patrick Mahomes, like that's a big spot, and he delivered. And it wasn't like he was awful for the first three quarters, and that's the most encouraging part. He didn't have the Bo Nix experience where awful for three quarters turns up in the fourth quarter. He played decently, protected the football, and then when it was time to win the game, he did just that. So NJ Lauren chimes in with that. We also talk Caleb Williams reminds me of Mark Sanchez. Caleb Williams is super athletic, which keeps a lot of Chicago's offensive drives alive. And he has a gun. Caleb can throw the football. I'm not denying his talent at all. He is a super athlete. I just haven't come away with, after a year and a half, being impressed by him. And there are a lot of Bears fans who are looking to scream to the mountaintops. Oh, we've got the best quarterback in our division. And maybe that's the case, but maybe it's also a testament to the quarterbacks in your division not being very good. J.J. McCarthy, Jordan Love, who did have a tremendous throw on a touchdown pass to Christian Watson to beat the Giants yesterday. And Jared Goff, who just was awful last night. So maybe you have the best quarterback in your division, but I think that says more about your division than it does your quarterback. The Bears are not a threat to me at all. They remind me of like that Vikings team from a couple years, in what was it, 2022? We're winning all these close games that eventually will get undressed. They might catch another break, no pun intended, this week against the Steelers because Rodgers has a small fracture in his left wrist. What's a small fracture, by the way? It's a fracture. That's why when people are like, it's a minor surgery. No, every surgery is major. But they may catch a break going up against another backup quarterback in Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph, who actually did not look terrible yesterday. All right. So the Bears get the win. I mentioned the Packers beating the Giants. Listen, it's another fourth quarter blown lead for Giants. The Giants this year, if games were only 3 quarters long, would be a playoff team. But their defense isn't any good. And for all of the people expecting there to be some change at the defensive coordinator position, because you've grown sick and tired of Shane Bowen blowing lead after lead after lead. So my man Jordan Renan report today, don't expect any changes. Shane Bowen is at least going to keep his job through this week. So the Giants, they were fine. Jameis Winston, I thought, played well. Last drive to try to tie the game, he turns the ball over. But what can you expect? He hadn't played all season, and I actually thought that if he had been brought into that game against Chicago instead of Russell Wilson, the Giants win last week. And maybe it would have been a bad win because if Dable keeps his job. But if Winston had played in that game last week, the Giants win. If once Dart gets hurt, Winston comes in, the Giants win. Now we just wait and see how long Jackson Dart is going to be out, because if you're the Giants at 2-9, I shouldn't say the only thing that matters. The most important thing going forward is to have Dart continue to develop. You also want to see pieces that you have on this roster that are valuable enough to where, it makes sense to keep them. Abdul Carter got benched for the first 6 plays of yesterday's game. I don't know how much he's learning from just, I got benched the first 6 plays, but then I ended up playing the rest of the game. Like, yeah, that's a very valuable teaching lesson. So you want to see Abdul Carter, you want to see Jackson Dart, you want to continue to see what you have on offense. Tyrone Tracy was pretty good yesterday, but outside of that, man, I mean, there's what else are you watching for? I guess an evaluation of Mike Kafka, but I don't know that any Giant fan at this point really wants to see him going forward. Steelers beat the Bengals. They're now 6-4. Rodgers gets hurt in that game. Flacco was awful. And if you're a Steelers fan, the defense has improved. You're worried about that offense because even when Aaron was in the game yesterday, it's dink and dunk. There's no synergy. They're clearly missing a second receiver. So they're going to all these tight ends. They're trying to run the football. Can't do that. There's nothing the Steelers do well on offense. Nothing they do well on offense. So congrats to them. They're winning games. And the more you win, the closer you get to get into a playoff spot. But at 6-4, you're just one bad week away from falling out of this thing. And I mentioned they play the Bears next week. The Bears, who have been a killer late in games. So you lose next week, you can be on the outside looking in. We talked Jags beating the Chargers. It's awful loss for Los Angeles. The Rams, look, Matt Stafford's the MVP right now. And I'm happy for him. Because you look at his career arc, he went from a really good quarterback on a bad team, putting up great numbers, but no one cared because he was on a bad Detroit Lions team. He finally gets his opportunity in LA with the Rams, wins the Super Bowl, came this close to losing it, but wins the Super Bowl. This past offseason, there was conversation the Rams might trade Matt Stafford because I was saying the Giants should be interested. There was a legitimate opportunity for them to trade him. There was a legitimate chance he was going to get moved. They kept him, and now they're 8-2, and they have a case for the best team in the NFC. I'd still lean Philadelphia, who won the Super Bowl last year, who beat them head-to-head. But with how excellent that defense looks, they forced Sam Darnold into 4 interceptions yesterday. That defense is tremendous, something we don't really focus on too much because of how good Stafford and the offense has been. And then Devontae Adams, if only his previous team would have saw it was valuable to keep him. Devontae Adams, he in that offense continues to click. And Stafford, tremendous. Again, what did he finish with? $132 touchdowns. And I say tremendous from this standpoint. We know the Seahawks are a great defense. So it's almost graded on a curve. Still finished with a passer rating of 90. That's not great. But he did just enough for his team to win. And I guess if you're a Seahawks fan, it is a tough loss because despite the 4 interceptions, you were still in it to win the game. Jason Myers misses that potential walk-off field goal. And that's another big spot for Sam Darnold where he struggles. We saw the Week 18 and the playoff game against the Lions last year. He was terrible. Terrible. Could not get the ball in the end zone. And then yesterday, he was pretty awful. Almost made up for it by leading them down the field on a game-winning drive. But Myers, as I mentioned, misses the kick, and the Seahawks fall to the Rams. You've got the Niners, 41 points yesterday. McCaffrey was awesome. Welcome back to Brock Purdy. The Niners are still a team I don't fully trust yet. Like, I see what they're doing, getting healthier. Robert Saleh has done wonders for that defense. I don't know that I trust them more than I trust Philadelphia and the Rams in that NFC. I can't. Talked about the Ravens, talked about the Chiefs, and then last night, what I learned was the Eagles are still the best team in the NFC and probably the best team in the NFL. The offense is a struggle. We know that. It's a struggle for them offensively, but they get the benefit of the doubt. They're the reigning champs. They play excellent defense. And that's a team that I think is going to get the 1 seed, get the bye, have a home playoff game to get back to the NFC Championship game. And at NFC Championship game, if I had to put my money on it, would be Rams Eagles, a rematch of last year. The Lions, right now, with that loss on the outside looking in, and that offense looks a mess. Dan Campbell taking over play calling duties did nothing for them. If anything, they regressed. All right, let's hear from some of the guys in the comments. NJ Lawrence says Williams hasn't put it together yet. From what I've seen, he doesn't have the ability to put the game on his back as a quarterback. Now, he has put it on his back in crunch time situations. Against the Bengals, he did. Against the Giants, he did. And what was the other game? Because yesterday was not a game we put the team on his back. But there's another game that I'm missing on where he did late in it have a chance to win it, and he drove them down the field. Was it the Washington game? Maybe it was Washington, but he has. Just the problem with him is he can't do it for an entire game, 4 quarters. We have yet to see the complete Caleb Williams against a good team stellar performance for 4 quarters, and that's my issue with him. Kevin Zwicker says Giants some cheeks for real. Really gonna need to nail the coach hire and not waste what they have in Dart, especially not on his rookie contract. And I think the Giants are gonna be in a prime spot this offseason to make a big splash. Who knows the head coaches that could become available? Stefanski, it's interesting because if it's true that the owner wanted or forced them to draft Shedeur Sanders and Stefanski is being passive aggressive in his handling of the Shedeur Sanders situation, that could cause some friction with ownership. And I wouldn't be surprised if after another bad season for the Browns, he gets let go or, mutual parting of ways or something happens. Stefanski would be someone I'd be interested if I'm the Giants in having as my head coach. NJ Lawrence says fractures are rated by how much of a bone is broken. My son had a fracture of his arm. That was 90%. That was less than 90%. That is heavy. Yeah, no, I understand that. I'm just saying it's just funny to hear small fracture because when I hear fracture, I'm like, man, I feel like I had an ankle fracture before. I never got it checked out. I sprained my ankle really badly and I couldn't walk for weeks. I'm pretty sure it was fractured. And to this day, it still gives me some trouble. But yeah, that's the small fracture is what Rodgers is dealing with. And you said greater, my bad. You said greater than 90%. NJ Lauren, Kevin, they need to get Dart to protect himself. Kid is great. He has a lot already, but he can't do it all. No, he can't. But once he gets some more weapons, Neighbors, Scatterbull, who they're going to get in the draft, continue to build that offensive line. I've got no doubt that Dart is going to be the real deal. He's already shown me enough where he's the real deal. All right, guys. Appreciate you all joining us. We went an hour strong here. This was fun. Went through the entire slate. The NFL lived up to the hype yesterday. We all kept talking about how fun this weekend was going to be, and it ended up being just as fun as it was marketed to be. Just a quick recap. Biggest winner to me was Bo Nix and the Broncos. Hell of a win over Kansas City in that spot. They won the weekend. The Eagles are the best team in the NFL. The Chargers, they had the worst weekend. Ravens and Chiefs both at 5-5, which is interesting considering the direction both teams were going in after they had met in week 4. For them to both be 5-5, it's incredible that we're here. The Rams, they look primed for a rematch with the Eagles, who I just mentioned are the best team in the NFL. So a whole lot to take away from what we saw this weekend. Shout out to you guys in the comments. I appreciate y'all. NJ Lauren, Kevin Zwicker. Appreciate everyone listening who did not chime in. Hit me up. Ty D. Butler is where you can find me on social media. That is Instagram. That is X. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit me up on Snapchat. I appreciate y'all. We'll do this again. Holla at your boy.